What's up, guys? Welcome into the Parlay alongside 15-year NBA veteran Mr. Kendall Gill himself. KG, welcome, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
That's right. We're sponsored by 60-40 Club. If you want to know Kendall Gill's workout regimen, you need to check it out. He's even out there in the winter.
Yeah, you're right.
I saw it.
You saw me. You saw me out there in the snow, right?
I saw it.
Okay.
You're crazy, but I saw it.
Rocky style.
And also don't forget, sponsored by Glory Wash Pro. Don't forget to check them out. They do all your washer needs from the house, from concrete. Check them out. Jonathan Castro is the man to do it. And don't forget to subscribe. Guys, we have a special guest on Zoom today joining us on the Parlay, and it is the one and only, the Magic Man, Mr. Paulie Malignaggi himself in the building. Paulie, welcome into the show, man.
Man, happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me. And I think you guys got to make sure that people know about that 60-40, that it's Chicago winters. It's not just out there in the winter. KG is out there in the Chicago winters, bro. It's different, that's a different kind of winter.
Yeah, man. Hey, look, Paulie, it builds character, man, because I was freezing my butt off out there. But you know what? We still get out there. We get it done, man. That's all,
You refuse to become civilized like Apollo told Rocky.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Exactly.
Thank you, first of all, from me, man. You're a legend to me, my boy. It's an honor and pleasure to talk to you. So thank you so much. Hey, man, listen. You know what I'm about to ask you first. You've diven into bare knuckle fighting now. You've done it, back in 2019. You did it this year again. Won a split decision. And we just want to ask you first, number one, why, and then number two, what's the difference between boxing and doing bare knuckle?
Well, why? It was a couple of things. It was. First and foremost, it was, the opportunity to do this one last time. There's a point where, I'm resisting it. The last 6 years, I have been offered several different kind of fights the last 6 years, and I turned some down. And then you start to sort of regret it as the age gets to you. You're like, man, if I don't do this now again, I may never feel this again. Am I ready to part ways with that feeling for good? You think you are when you retire, but then there's that what if, and then there's an end. Yeah, but I can do this. And so you start to wonder, and then I kind of started to regret having turned down some of the fights I did, So, and now it gets to the point once you turn down some of those fights, they don't come your way anymore because people think, okay, he's out, he's really out. He's not accepting any offers, And so, I had to kind of come to terms and be at peace with it. And I wasn't really ready to be at peace with it because I said, you know what? If I don't do this right now, there's no way I can do this again. You can't do it at 50, man. 50 is going to be even more tough. You can, but it just gets more and more tough to do as far as your body responding the way you want it to respond, especially on a competitive level, at a certain level that, guys like myself were used to competing at. I don't want to be all the way at the bottom of the barrel, That's why, at this age, when I start doing it now, I give guys like George Foreman credit, for example. Rest in peace to George Foreman. He came back on I looked at his comeback. I lost his comeback and he came back in a high school gymnasium show. This was a guy who had fought the Rumble in the Jungle and everything else. His first fight back against Steve was against Steve Zalski, who actually ended up being a Mike Tyson opponent as well. It was in a high school gymnasium. He started from the bottom and wanted to prove himself up the rankings and got all the way to the heavyweight title years later when he knocked out Michael Moore. So, I don't know what the end game is here. It's definitely not. I definitely don't intend for it to be a run for that long. Obviously, Foreman came back in his late 30s. I'm a mid-40s guy already. So, and I don't know what the future holds for me. This may be one and done. It may be that I do this again. It may be that glove boxing offers come my way. But there were different things going on in my mind. That was one of the reasons. The second reason was BKB had done a lot for me. That's why I chose to fight for them. They had done a lot for me as far as allowing me the commentating jobs that I've had through the years. They were one of the companies that I've been commentating with consistently the past 4 or 5 years. Them and ProBox TV. So I kind of wanted to give them a lift, just like I kind of gave BKFC a lift when I fought with them in 2019. BKFC used that as a springboard back when I fought for them in 2019, and they've since become a very big company. So I wanted to, BKB had done a lot for me on the commentating side and in hiring me. And so I wanted to give them a chance to maybe try to use, me as a springboard as well, because they had been so good to me in these past years. And then lastly, it's obviously a little bit financial as well. You know, it's not nothing makes quick money like a fight. You know, like it's quicker and it's bigger chunks than just normal jobs. You know, and I want to pay down some of my property, some of my assets / liabilities, because a piece of me kind of wants to move back to Sicily and kind of just chill out at my older age. You know, I know it's not gonna happen tomorrow, but you know, it's definitely one of my goals in my life, and maybe I'm being spoiled, but I don't want to go back to Sicily by doing the old, okay, sell everything and go back. I want to kind of keep a lot of what I got here in the U.S. and maybe be able to still go there while not parting ways with what I've built up here. So, you know, if I can do that, then I'd have to, you know, pay down some things, you know, and so I looked at it like, okay, maybe fighting can, you know, help me sort of fast track that as well. So, you know, it was a combination of a lot of things, and I've seen people have a lot of different opinions on it, and I tell people, you know what, there's probably a little bit of correct in all the opinions, you know, because it's not just one thing. It was probably a little bit of everything. So, you know, there's people say, oh, Paulie needs money. I don't need money, but I like I said, there's a reason I want that money right now. And so people say, oh, you can't put it down. A fighter can never put it down. Yeah, sometimes a fighter can't put it down. Yeah, of course, you know, and then like I said, with the other thing was just me wanting to help BKB grow as a brand, because if BKB also grows as a brand, you know, I can sort of reciprocate what they've done for me, and them and ProBox TV have done a lot for me on the commentating side in these recent years.
I was going to ask you that question, man. You know, now that I'm retired from basketball after 15 years in the NBA, I'm in the broadcast business as well. Been doing the Chicago Bulls, NBA TV, some boxing for the last 16 or 17 years. I thought that before you left Showtime, that you were the best in the business as far as being an analyst, breaking a fight down, really telling the fans how you see the fight from a world champion's perspective and breaking it down to them in layman's terms, because some fans just don't understand some things when you try to explain it to them unless you break it down to them like that. I felt that that's what you did each and every broadcast. Since there's no longer HBO boxing or Showtime boxing, do you ever think that you may go to a bigger platform, perhaps like the Zone? Because I think that your analyst is sorely missed.
You know, I'll start by saying this, KG. I'm very, very happy where I'm at. ProBox TV has done a lot for me, and I feel like where I go, if I'm able to help them grow and get bigger, I feel like that also proves my value and sort of vindicates what people like you were saying, that, you know, I may have been the best analyst at that time and still may be. And I'll say this, you know, at the time that everything happened with Showtime, I was also working with Boxer and Sky, and Boxer, the promotion in England, used to have dates on various networks, but they had just acquired a Sky Sports deal, you know, and so I felt like I was with them at that grassroots level as well, and I helped them grow. I was part of the analyst team that helped them grow to that point where Sky Sports. But then when everything happened with Showtime, the heads at Sky also wanted to part ways with me. They didn't like that, you know, the reasoning of the breakup with Showtime. So Sky also ended up punishing me and basically told Boxer, listen, we got a contract with you, but it's not going to be with Paulie Malignaggi. So I wound up having to, you know, part ways there too. But I still felt like, you know what? We were doing Boxer back when I first started with Boxer. It was like very small shows, and now they had a Sky contract. So I felt like, you know, even though I didn't get to be part of the Sky contract, I felt like, wow, you know, like me as an analyst, I can be a real asset, because, you know, I'm part of a system that people put into place that grows, you know. So I kind of take pride in that, you know. And so it wasn't hard feelings. Like with Showtime, it was probably some hard feelings, but with Sky, with Boxer, it wasn't, because it wasn't them. It was really the Sky Sports deal. I couldn't expect them to push back on Sky after they had worked so hard to get a TV contract, and Sky told them that I wasn't. So even to this day, I have a good relationship with Boxer. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to them about doing some deals with them now that they've just got a new contract with BBC Network in England. They've parted ways with Sky. So I may do some stuff in 2026 with the BBC Network and Sky, and sorry, not Sky, and Boxer next year. Maybe not on a consistent basis, because again, my work with ProBox is priority. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because ProBox TV and BKB are also growing, ascending brands, you know, and they may not be what DAZN is right now. They may not be what Sky was back then, or what Showtime was back then, right? But at the same time, I again take pride in a growing brand, in something that's growing and something that's picking up momentum, and people are enjoying, and it's starting to build a bigger platform. And I really do believe that 2026 can be maybe, listen, I don't think ProBox and BKB will be as big as Sky or Showtime next year, for example. But I do see that BKB and ProBox are starting to really get in a lot of people's ears, and people are starting to talk about it more. Our viewerships are getting bigger and bigger. BKB has a couple of international contracts now as well. And ProBox TV, the viewership, I can remember when we just started at ProBox TV and we would get like a few thousand views for a live show. Now we get a bunch of live views. I mean, we get hundreds of thousands on a live show. And then after effect, because we're on YouTube, is like, you know, millions of views, you know, between our shows and our fights. So we're getting there, you know, and so for that perspective, I also don't want to take anybody's job. You know what I mean? Like I value that. I value my relationships, especially with former fighters. You know, I'm not Mr. Corporate. I don't really care to be corporate. And I, you know, maybe that hurts me sometimes, but I also, you know the guys at DAZN, they have good jobs. I know sometimes it's not everybody's cup of tea, but sometimes I'm not everybody's cup of tea. So either way, you know, people, there's going to be people that are happy. Some people are hired and some people are not happy that people are there. But so knowing that the guys that are at DAZN already, I wouldn't want to, you know, take bread out of somebody's mouth. You know, I got a position where I'm at. And if I could do some side jobs, because DAZN does do a lot of side jobs, a lot of smaller shows, I do pick up those at times. And again, I intend on growing more with ProBox TV and BKB if I can help it, you know. Okay. And if you may see me on some other side gigs, and like I said, maybe even that BBC and Boxer connection may be a connection for me as well, especially if down the line I may want to move back to Sicily. Working in England and being able to live in Sicily would be ideal for me, because it's basically the same thing as when I'm in New York or I'm in Florida and there's a fight in Vegas or California that I got to work. The flight is basically the same amount of time, maybe even less, actually. From Sicily to England, it's like a 3-hour flight. So it's actually kind of a little bit less than Florida to Vegas or New York to Vegas or Florida to LA, New York to LA. So those are just my thoughts from an analyst perspective. I enjoy being an analyst, but I also see that, you know, people are very fickle and you know, ultimately, as long as the network puts on good fights, boxing fans will watch. You know, it doesn't matter who the commentators are. They may complain about the commentators, but I learned with Showtime that Showtime and that networks value more the quality of fight than anything else, because that's more important. Fans will still tune in even if the commentating team is not that good. I'll say.
Right. Well, I tell you what, man, I enjoy your commentary, and the boxing purists understand what you bring to the table.
I appreciate it, man. I got a question for you, Kendall. Did you that, for example, like you see, like I'm getting offered get fights and stuff like that. That 3-on-3 when it came back. Were they offering some of the old timers an opportunity to play in that 3-on-3 tournament?
Yeah, they did. Actually, I played the first season.
Oh, you did play the first season. I know. See, the buck never leaves, man. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I played the first season. It was fun, but after that, I didn't want to go back to it, man. I just said, okay, I've done enough, and you know, I had kids. Yeah, exactly.
Paulie, you know, a lot is happening in boxing right now. I'm going to go to the most recent, but we have 15 minutes left here with you. But I wanted to get to Jake Paul's cancellation with Tank Davis's fight and the rumors about Joshua being an opponent. How do you feel about how Jake Paul maneuvers around the business of boxing and getting all these numbers? Dive into that a little bit with me.
I think that Jake is sort of in his own lane, you know. I like to compare it to, like, if people have seen the movie Back to the Future Part 2, there was an alternate 1985 and there was a real 1985, you know. And so Jake's boxing lane is like an alternate reality, you know, because he's got his own fan base, his own platform, his own sort of image and branding that will sell his fights. But the mainstream, the real boxing world, doesn't really care for it, and it's sort of two separate lanes, you know, sort of running parallel. Sometimes they coincide, you know, we'll use a boxing name on that side, you know, But overall, I don't think it has any bearing on real boxing, and I don't think there's too many fans that will jump back and forth. But what I do appreciate Jake is doing is on the promotional end, he values solid matchmaking, and he does put on a lot of times very good cards, even underneath him, to attract what he knows will attract real boxing fans. Because he knows he's aware that his fights are going to attract the other brand of fans. But if he wants to attract the real boxing fans, which I guess he values because he makes an effort to put real fights together on the undercard, then he's also putting these fights together. So really, a lot of times for boxing fans, I get excited about a Jake Paul card because there's good fights on that card. And then, of course, you've already watched the whole card. You're with your friends. You might as well watch the main event.
Yeah, exactly. And that's his trick.
And from the other side, his fans on the other end are watching for Jake, and they're probably not even paying attention to the undercard. They're hanging around at their fight parties and talking and chatting. Yeah. And then when Jake comes on, they all watch, Yeah. So either way, he finds a way to attract both sides of it. So I can appreciate that mentality because it's a business mindset that I think is intelligent and also attracts viewership. But as a fighter, I know a lot of people think Jake sets up his fights. I don't think Jake sets up his fights. What I think he does is he stacks the deck. So it's and stacking the deck is not something foreign even in regular boxing. You know what I mean? A lot of times the head promoter, if he's got a pressure fighter and the opponent is a runner, they'll set up a smaller ring or they'll make the canvas a little softer. So the guy who's running doesn't put the house promoter's fighter at a disadvantage because he's a pressure fighter, Yeah. So stacking the deck is something that happens in boxing anyway. And Jake does it as well, but he does it in a more obvious way, right? He'll fight smaller guys. In the beginning, he was fighting guys who weren't fighters at all, NBA guys like Nate Robinson. Then he fought MMA guys, but their main base wasn't striking. It was more grapplers, and he was fighting them in a striking match in boxing. So again, you're stacking the deck in different ways. Also, they're smaller, right? And then, he tried his hand at a boxer with Tommy Fury. He lost, so he pulled back and said, okay, we're going to do a little bit of something else. With Gervonta Davis, it wasn't a real fight anyway. It was an exhibition. And an exhibition, you can't bet on an exhibition. It doesn't have to be a regular result. An exhibition, I was trying to tell people, an exhibition, it's not illegal to stage that. It's illegal to stage a sanctioned fight. So Jake's sanctioned fight could not have been staged because why would a guy who's running with that kind of money put himself at risk to stage a sanctioned fight? He would never do that. It would be moronic. So I just don't believe that he was staging those fights. Chavez Jr. for me sucked anyway. He sucked back in the day. Yeah, to me, I think he was just positioned there constantly, and he's got a big following. So it was smart to put him there. But Chavez Jr. is what he is. With Gervonta Davis, it was an exhibition. Now, does that mean it wasn't interesting from a circus perspective? There's 100 pounds difference. There's, a foot difference. What size were the gloves going to be? It was going to be a bit of a circus show, but, it could have been staged. It wouldn't have been far-fetched to say that could have been staged because it would have been an exhibition anyway. So I didn't know what to think of that, but I wasn't crazy about Davis getting the fight because I just felt like Davis had been avoiding top opposition his whole career. So I just feel like he's been given a red carpet treatment without earning it. He's a very talented fighter, but I feel like, talent is supposed to get you so far, but you got to go earn it, and KG, to use the NBA and the NBA analogy, you got to go through the playoffs and win the NBA title, bro. You got to go we got to get past who's in front of you. You can't just choose what playoff teams you want to play and what playoff teams you don't want to play, Yeah. So, that's basically the way Davis's championship career was sort of being positioned anyway. So I wasn't crazy about him doing it. And people mention, other guys have done it. Yeah, Muhammad Ali did it with Antonio Inoki, the wrestler from Japan. But Ali also didn't duck a single guy in his life. So, you could see, okay, he took a little side job and went here with Inoki. But then he came back and kept fighting real guys, Right. And he was fighting real guys before that. So from that end of it, it's not a comparison. With Joshua, I just think this is wild. I mean, if this is real and this is a real fight, is wild, but I guess everybody has a price. I heard some crazy numbers were going to be given to Jake, so everybody maybe has a price. To quote the old $1 Million Man WWF quote, right? Everybody has a price, and maybe there's enough of a price for Jake to take a risk on Joshua. If he loses, hey, he's supposed to lose, and if he lands a lucky punch, hey, you know what? It would legitimize him. Yeah. I don't know. I personally still think it's crazy because Joshua is still a semi-active fighter. So there has to be commissions that sort of put safety precautions into effect, you know? and this is still a fight. And if it's a real fight, it's kind of hazardous for somebody like Jake to fight Joshua. But, you know, I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It is. So getting off of getting to the most recent fight, Terrence Crawford versus Canelo. Will we see a rematch?
I hope not, you know. I hope not. I didn't think Canelo was at a world-class level anymore. He was just fighting, you know, guys that were allowing him to remain at that level, and he's a big sell. So I think it was convenient for the business people within the business to keep him at that level. But I think, you know, the fact that, once again, to use the analogy I used with Davis, he was able to pick and choose the playoff teams he was able to play against. You know, he was able to, you know, avoid the most difficult ones and still say, okay, you know, this is a playoff caliber opponent. You know, let's play against him instead of play against that team. You know, that's sort of what he was doing. And so it was allowing him to sort of hover around that world-class level regardless. But I didn't think he was at world-class level anymore. And a fighter like Crawford, who was, let's face it, he was 3 weight classes smaller. Crawford had one fight at light middleweight, and he struggled in that fight. So it's a guy who was 3 weight classes smaller. The fact that a guy 3 weight classes smaller, regardless of how good he and talented he is, was able to outclass him, I think made that point. So I don't really see the necessity for it. My only issue with Canelo was that he was keeping the belts hostage. If Canelo does this and doesn't have the belts, I don't mind it. Julio Cesar Chavez went on a retirement tour and did a lot of these kind of fights at the end of his career. I thought that was fine. You know, people loved it, people watched it, and he attracted a viewership. Canelo wants to do the same thing. That's fine. Just don't hold the belts hostage, because you're putting a monkey wrench in an entire weight class because you got all the belts, and you're preventing deserving fighters from getting their rightful shots. So I think Crawford at least did the weight class a favor, as long as he now vacates the belts if he's not going to defend them. Right. And this weight class, which is a good weight class, I mean, there's some good fighters there. You know, you got Pacheco, you got Lester Martinez, you got Mbili, you got Hamza Shiraz, you got various fighters. Maybe even Morrell comes back down to 168. He's hinted at that. He said if he can get a title shot, he will come back down to 168. So I think 168 has a bevy of possible good matchups between hungry world-class fighters. It's a difference. You know, you'd be a world-class fighter and not be so hungry. I love fights between hungry world-class fighters because there's a savagery that you don't see when fighters are world-class level and they're already worth 100 million. You don't see that savagery anymore. But I you know, that savagery is essential for the entertainment value of world-class boxing.
Yeah, you're right about that.
You know, Paulie, you fought everybody. You know, you fought legends. You fought a whole bunch of people, and you know, one of the questions that our Puerto Rican fan base wanted me to ask you was, how was it fighting Miguel Cotto and that power? You've mentioned in the past in past interviews.
I'm very open about it. That was the best fighter I ever fought. The most complete fighter, very strong, the hardest puncher, but also the most cerebral. The only reason I was able to keep it a little bit competitive was because I had a speed advantage over Miguel. So at least I was able to offset some of it. But as opposed to, because some people look at my loss to Amir Khan and say it was more one-sided, so it wasn't Khan the toughest fight. No, Khan was the most stylistically a nightmare for me because he offset what I did best. Cotto didn't beat me by offsetting what I did best. I could do what I did best, which is a speed game, but he was able. It was a battle of styles. So from that perspective, it may have been more competitive, but it was more destructive, and it was also, you know, Cotto has a way of making you fight his fight whether you want to do it or not. And I think, you know, and I was always curious after I fought him. I wonder if he could do that to Mayweather. And when we saw the Mayweather fight, he forced Mayweather to also fight a very difficult fight. And Mayweather, after that fight, said it was the toughest fight of his career. So I got my answer. You know, kudos to Mayweather for pulling it out. I thought it was closer than what the scorecards had it, but I thought Mayweather pulled out in the last round against Miguel. But regardless, he has a way of forcing you to fight a fight you don't want to fight. You know, and he'll do it to world-class fighters as well, you know. And I was a world-class fighter. Mayweather was a super world-class fighter, but he'll force you to do into a fight that you don't want to fight, especially that kind of fight against him, who's so strong, you know. And he does it in an intelligent manner, technically sound. He was the best, most complete fighter I fought for that reason, and he also knew how to be a little bit dirty as well, which again, it's a fight in there. You know, he knew how to mix and balance that as well. So I think overall, he had a little bit of everything and a lot of world class in general. You know, he was really world class.
As a Puerto Rican myself, I was rooting against you so hard. And after the fight, you gave my respect that night. You gave my total respect that night.
I felt it. I felt it in the garden. You know.
Hey, Paulie, I was actually at that fight, and I was in the back when you walked in. And well, when you walked in, I said, "Hey, that's Paulie Malignaggi right there." And then my boy Freddie Cuevas was fighting on the undercard. I think it was John Duddy or something like that. Who he fought?
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw you walk in, going into the locker room, and then I saw the fight. I was like, I got a lot of respect for Paulie because I think you broke your cheekbone in that fight.
My orbital, yeah, my right orbital
bone, yeah. And I was like, and you broke it like in the 7th, 8th round.
On the second round knockdown, he broke it.
Round knockdown, right? And you still freaking went through the fight. So it's tough to do that, man.
Look at that knockdown. He throws a 1-2 and follows. He does it technically. It's technically, I guess, wrong, but Cotto made it right. You know, he threw a 1-2 and he stepped over. With the 1-2, he stepped over with his back foot and wound up in a southpaw stance. And Cotto is a natural southpaw in general. And just for an instant, he wound up in a southpaw stance because he followed through with the right hand with his back foot. So then he throws a left hand, but he throws it over the top. As a south from the southpaw stance, he throws the left hand over. So he crushes my right orbital bone. He throws it from the top. He basically brings it down. So it crushes my right orbital. It knocks me down. And I remember the knockdown, and I've discussed this at times in other interviews, but it never gets into this much detail. I remember the doctor afterwards told me there's nerves that go from here to your teeth. And that's why I felt what I felt. I thought he knocked my teeth out. I've always been very distinct about my teeth. I've gotten genetically good teeth. They're straight. I've never had a cavity to this day. And I was always having nightmares about losing my teeth. And I thought he knocked my teeth out because the nerve sensory felt like my teeth got knocked out. So I got up because I was fine with the knock. It was a flash. I got up, and in my mind, if people probably think like, what am I thinking? You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking, this Sam Effer just knocked my teeth out, man. I can't believe it. I'm taking the count, and in my mind, I'm like, this Sam Effer just knocked my teeth out. And when the round ended, they took my mouthpiece out of my mouth, and my teeth were not in it. So I realized, okay, my teeth ain't there. I started going like this in the corner, like trying to feel for my teeth, and I felt my tongue scraping. So my teeth were there. So at that point, I'm like, all right, my teeth are there. I don't know what I'm feeling, but my teeth are there. You know, we got to just get on with the fight. But afterwards, the doctors told me the reason I felt that is because there's nerves. And it's funny, to this day, these nerves are kind of dead. Like there's nerves here. If I feel it, it's like a tingly feeling. It kind of shot off some of the nerves. Some of the feeling came back with, but if I touch myself here, it's like a weird tingly feeling, you know? So, that's how hard dude hits though, man.
Now I got to go back and watch the fight so I can see that. Yeah. I'm going to go back tonight and watch it.
You'll see that on the knockdown, man.
Paulie, what are you excited for in 2026 in boxing, man? What are you looking forward to?
You know, one of the things I'm looking forward to is the network I work with, ProBox, putting on better fights. Where we've raised our level a little bit. We've upped our budget a little bit to fights we're affording. I felt like our last show between Nicholas Flaz and Tiger Johnson was almost a boxing after dark level fight. I've always been saying ProBox is sort of the replacement for the old ESPN Friday Night Fights, and that's the kind of level of fights we've been having. But I felt like our last main event on November 7th was more so a boxing after dark type of fight. You know, the old HBO boxing after dark. So I feel like we're raising our level, and I look forward to hopefully we can keep making these kind of matchups in 2026 and growing our brand. But also within world boxing, you know, I want to see what happens with the heavyweight division, for example, because Usyk is not a spring chicken. He's been dominant, but he's not a spring chicken. There's this guy Itamo who's really, really exciting. There's Jalalov at the heavyweight division as well, who's I think is avoided. He's 6'9". He's an Olympic gold medalist, and you know he's a rough and rugged guy. If he starts, you know, if people start giving him opportunities, and then within the smaller weight classes, you know, I'm looking at other things. Right now, I got Eubank and Ben on right now as we're speaking. You know, they're in round 3. I'm curious to see, you know, where the winner of this fight goes. Curious to see if Shakur Stevenson and Teofimo Lopez is being discussed. That's a real fun one, I think, and that's one that really interests me. So, you know, boxing always comes through, man. You know, also it's, one guy that excites me at 168 is Hamza Shiraz. You know, there's a lot of good fighters there, but Hamza Shiraz is a really exciting guy. At ProBox TV, we've had Lester Martinez a couple of times. I think he was really exciting on the undercard against Mbili on the Canelo undercard. So looking forward to his progression. And, boxing, love it or hate it, man, it's going to be there. And it'll give you a lot to complain about, but it'll also give you a lot to get excited about, and that's typically, why a lot of boxing fans are pessimistic, but we always watch. People say, why you watch if you complain about it? Because you know what? There's the times when boxing lives up to it. And then, because of that, it's like you're thinking to yourself, man, I need that high again, and I gotta feel it again. And then we'll see. Maybe even what comes my way. Maybe I'll do a fight or two. We'll see. Because I'm thinking maybe glove boxing might be a better way, man. Those eye pokes.
Paulie, I got one for you. Conor McGregor.
I don't think Conor McGregor will fight me. I'll be honest with you.
I want to see that fight. I want to see that fight so bad.
Everybody, and I'll tell you why Conor McGregor won't fight me. I think he can afford a loss to anybody else, but because the lie with me would be so distinct, because he basically gave an image of a sparring session that is completely the opposite of what happened. Yeah. So he can't lose that fight. He could lose other fights, and people will say, oh, it was against this guy. He could lose and he can rebuild his image. But I think to lose to me, especially the way he would lose to me, which would be pretty one-sidedly, I don't think he can afford that, because then everybody would know he lied. And and people don't like to be fooled. They don't like when you make a sucker out of them, So I think he can afford to fight anybody and lose to anybody, but not me. So I really don't ever see him fighting me, to tell you the truth. But we'll see, because I also think bare knuckle, that eye poke stuff, man, that might change my mindset a little bit. I don't mind bare knuckle, but the eye pokes, there's something I hadn't counted on, because in boxing we never had to worry about eye pokes, bro. Eye pokes are for real, bro. My eye is still a little bit blurry from that, so I'm still in recovery mode from that. So I may just angle off towards glove boxing instead. We'll see. Maybe nothing happens. We'll see. But even for me, there may be some options.
Paulie, we can't wait to see you if you go back to the ring. We can't wait. We love the style. We love your jab is one of your greatest assets. You do it well, man.
People may like, oh, you can't box in the street fight. You can't box in a bare knuckle fight. Yeah, you can, bro. I told you can. Yeah. I've done it twice. You boxed both times. I loved me the first time, and then the first time I did it one-handed, and I still should have won. So you can't. Hand skills are hand skills. They apply in all kinds of fighting.
Paulie, man, thank you for taking your time during the fight to talk to us today, man. Much pleasure. Again, much respect here from Chicago. KG.
Paulie, I appreciate you coming on our platform, man. I've been wanting to do this for ages, but I just got around to asking you. Appreciate you taking out time for the little folks over here in Chicago.
I grew up watching you, KG. You know what I mean? I appreciate always appreciate being able to chat. And thanks for having me on the show, man. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, thanks, Paulie. Hey, Paulie. I'm gonna be in New York. I'm gonna be in New York in a couple of weeks, man. I'm gonna send you my phone number. Maybe we'll get together, go to lunch. I'm coming in to film a Netflix special for Jason Williams.
I just got a part of the Netflix movie, the '84 Olympic team. They're doing a movie on the '84 U.S. Olympic team. I got a part as a referee.
Oh, you did? Oh, sweet.
But I'm in the background as a referee during some of the fights.
That's gonna be cool. Everybody gonna know who you are. Shit.
That's why I'm shaved. They told me how to shave. So now I'm growing back my beard. But yeah, let me know, man. But I'm mainly in Florida now, KG. But let me know, because I do go back and forth. Let me know.
Okay. Well, I'll hit you up, and if you're there, man, we'll get together.
All right, sounds good, man. All right.
Take care,
later, guys.
All right, now it's Paulie Malignaggi. This guy can talk, man.
Paulie Malignaggi. Look, you ask him a question and just sit back in the chair like this, because he is going to go.
Yeah, man. All I needed was some popcorn.
That was the easiest show we ever had to do.
We barely spoke
because we didn't even have to speak. Paulie did it all for us.
Thank you, Paulie. You made this.
But that's why Paulie is a world class fighter, champion. Also, world-class boxing analyst. He broke down everything for us. Every question that we asked him, he answered it in detail, the different nuances. That's why we wanted him on our show. And, he just made the show that much better.
And I was dying. I know he's been asked it before, but I was dying to ask him about Miguel Cotto, because he's gotten into the whole aspect of his orbital bone. I've heard that, and how hard Cotto punches, but really just to be able to hear from Paulie about Miguel, who has power, but it's not only power, how smart Miguel was.
Yeah.
How smart he would punch and position himself to do stuff like that to world-class fighters. It was just, I was in heaven for like a second. I was in boxing heaven, just listening and break it down.
Yeah, I was like tuned in, man. Like my attention, sometimes my attention, it can be diverted some, but the thing is that everything he said, man, I was tuned in. I wanted to know everything, from a a guy who really knows the sweet science on both sides of the fence.
He does, man. And Paulie was a world-class fighter, and he fought the best of the best. So, Paulie, we thank you for being with us on the show. And guys, expect more interviews from us here as we talk to all the boxing greats, man, and people who are in the boxing community, because we love the sport, man. So
yeah, we really do. So.
You ready to go box?
I'm ready now. We just talked to Paulie Malignaggi, man. What's up? Let's go to the gym.
Don't forget the parlay sponsored by 6040 Club. Once again, Kendall Gill's workout regimen. Check it out. He was out there this week. I seen him. Had a coat on with a 75-year-old pastor.
That's right.
Shout out to the pastor, by the way.
Trying to get everybody in shape.
And also Glory Wash Pro. Again, all your pressure washer needs and cleaning needs for the house, concrete, all that stuff. Johnny Castro will take very good care of you. And finally, you better subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Subscribe to the parlay. We're on every platform, Facebook, Twitter, all that. Do what you got to do. It's the parlay. We're doing boxing. And if you're watching this, we're heading to Hammond, Indiana right now. We're going to cover some Chicagoland boxing because that's what we love to do here on the show as well. KG, tell the Bulls to wake up.
I will. Listen, the Bulls lost 4 in a row, but we got our troops coming back. Josh Giddey coming back. Kobe White coming back. Zach Collins coming back. Once those 3 get back into the fold, the Bulls are going to take off again just like they did earlier in the season when they went 6-1. All right?
Right.
So don't worry about it.
We're only playing Wemby.
Cavalry is coming.
We're only playing Wemby one more time, right?
We're going to play Wemby one more time, but we owe him.
We owe big time.
He's a freak, man.
That's crazy, yo. It's crazy. Stay away. It's the parlay. Always, hey, man, if you like what you just saw, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You guys got to follow us. Season 7 is going to be insane. We are going to be here. We hope you are here for it. But Kendall, let's go. On the court, I need my rematch. That 10-0 game was a fluke. Let's go.
Tito, as the great Floyd Mayweather once said, there are levels for a reason. There are weight classes for a reason. You're messing with a heavyweight, a professional basketball player. You're a lightweight. I don't want to take your confidence away from you, Tito. Okay? You've been doing well in your rec leagues. You've been winning championships in your rec leagues.
Go.
Stay on that level.
Let's go now.
Well, you go practice.